Welcome to this week's Lions pregame show. I am Patrick Johnston. Our old friend Jonathan McDonald is away on holiday, but joining us as always from his North Vancouver personal clubhouse is our own Lowell Ullrich. Lowell, how are you doing?
Hey Patrick, how's it today?
Oh, not bad. You know, I mean, I guess we're missing that sun out there, but no complaints.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week with the BC Lions, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's an interesting matchup. I mean, we look back at last week, the 36-29 win over the Hamilton Ticats. To quote our esteemed colleague Ian Austin, we've now reached the Hamilton level. If we look at last week's win, I mean, LU, that's a very close game. Came down to the final minutes of the game. Obviously, Kevin Glenn had a huge performance in the win. What do we actually say about the win last week in the bigger context of the season? Is this just another step forward for this team?
Yeah, I think in some regards that's a fair call. I mean, to try to get some momentum and certainly not take a regressive step after a big road win in Calgary the week previous, that's a huge deal. But there are those who would also tell you that, wait a minute, you're supposed to beat the Hamilton Ticats, a 1-5 team, by more than 7 points at home. You're not supposed to struggle. You're supposed to blow them away. And yet they scored 36 points. So, you know what, I suppose in the grand scheme of things, given the number of injuries that took place in the game, the Lions, I know, came out of it thinking, thank goodness we survived.
That Andrew Harris injury obviously has a lot of people talking. Just a week after he'd won his third most outstanding Canadian of the week. Any update on that?
Well, I mean, it doesn't look like Andrew Harris will play against the Argonauts. At least that's the word of the head coach, and the head coach kind of decides. An interesting dynamic in practice this week whereby Andrew Harris is running on the side in sprints, trying to, he literally was trying to convince Mike Benavides to get back in the lineup. Benavides saying, no, it's an 18-game season. We need you for the long haul. But I'll tell you what, without Andrew Harris, this game changes quite dramatically.
What are they going to have to do there? I mean, we obviously saw Kevin Glenn running in a way that I think we hadn't seen maybe even ever. There's also the question, of course, was Glenn trying to, show I've still got what it takes, with Travis Lulay looking ready to come back. What are they going to have to do when it comes to the running game?
Well, the Lions think that there's plug and play aspects to what they do, and that's every team thinks that they'll exchange Andrew Harris, the league's number one runner from scrimmage, with Stefan Logan, who's number one in combined yards when you add his yards in from punt and kickoff returns. So the Lions think there's no difference, but I think there is a big difference because Stefan Logan hasn't shown yet the ability to sort of break games open with his feet and with his speed. And I think that the Argonauts in this game will definitely key on Logan, try and take him out of the game and make the BC quarterback try and beat them through the air. That's a huge difference in this game if Andrew Harris isn't going to go.
Who's going to be the quarterback?
Well, that's as we speak, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you. I mean, I think the Lions are going to give Travis Lulay every opportunity to make a decision in his favor. But that said, the Lions were also saying, well, you know what? If Kevin Glenn can go, he'll start. So Glenn bothered by a real nasty thigh bruise that he picked up on the Hamilton game. The Lions are well stocked in that regard, obviously. They have two options. But I think that there reaches a point in time where they desperately want to get Travis Lulay in the lineup.
You've got to think so. I mean, he is the moneymaker after all. We look at this Toronto team. This is a bit of a weird setup for them. They actually played on Tuesday night. They beat the Blue Bombers. Now they have to turn around and play again at home against the Lions on Sunday, who themselves aren't even traveling until Saturday, if I understand correctly. But what do we make of this East Division? I mean, we've talked about it already, I think, on the podcast. I'm certainly sure it's come up here as well. The fact that this is a side of the league that's not doing all that well. I mean, I saw a few jokes on Twitter last week about the sort of the state of NFL preseason, and that for instance, that the loser of the Lions-Browns game would be relegated to the CFL East Division. What are we really making of this Argos team? I mean, they seem to be the definition of a 500 team when you certainly look at points for and against.
I guess if the loser of the NFL preseason game, that would be good, because then you'd get two 5-team divisions and we wouldn't have all these bye weeks. Maybe there's a good byproduct of this. The Argos are not a bad team. They're just an injury-ravaged team. I mean, they have lost 6 receivers, all their entire receiving core. Think about that. that if you lose your entire receiving corps injury, you're not going to fare well. You're going to struggle. You know, if you lose Chad Owens, Andre Dury, you are going to have trouble. What the Argonauts do not have trouble with is a quarterback who can still get it done in Ricky Ray. And as long as he's got time back there to throw, he threw to, I believe it was 10 different receivers, 9 different receivers against Winnipeg on Tuesday night. I mean, the man still has what it takes. And I think that if he's given time to throw, the Lions, who are going to make changes in their secondary, are really in trouble here, because I think that, you know, Ricky Ray, as I said, still has it.
Just a quick preview before we go here, LU. Obviously, you're going to have lots of content up at provincesports.com and in the newspaper. We'll have the podcast coming out later, and of course, your usual end of the week chat at 1 p.m. on Friday and Saturday, Sunday. Give us the rundown here, LU.
We're going to go at 12:30 on Friday.
Okay.
Just owing to some travel issues, but we're going to try and keep it as consistent as we can. We're going to be online at 12:30 on Friday, Patrick.
All right, LU, thanks again for joining us, folks. We'll see you again next week. And as always, check out all the latest content at provincesports.com.